For decades, Bollywood has been one of India's most powerful exports, a vibrant wave of culture that has captivated audiences worldwide. But what if I told you that this cultural empire is facing a new kind of resistance? That in key markets around the globe, a quiet wall is going up, blocking certain Indian films from ever hitting the screen? This isn't just about simple censorship. It's a quiet battle for cultural influence, and it's happening right now. Welcome to a conflict you've probably never heard of. It isn't fought with soldiers or weapons, but with censor boards, distribution blacklists, and subtle political pressure. The prize? The power of narrative. In our interconnected world, the stories we watch shape how we see each other, how we understand global events, and even how we define our own values. For years, Indian cinema has been a massive force in this arena, a form of soft power that built cultural bridges from the Middle East to Central Asia and beyond. But that influence is now running into friction. In key geopolitical regions, we're seeing more and more resistance. This is a story about more than just a few banned movies. It's about a complex web of political, religious, and economic pressures that are reshaping where Bollywood can and can't be seen. We're going to unpack this hidden conflict, looking at why it's happening, who's putting up the walls, and what it all means for the future of global cinema. To understand why there's a pushback against Bollywood, you first have to get a sense of its incredible influence. Political scientist Joseph Nye coined the term soft power to describe the ability to influence others not through force, but through attraction. It's about winning hearts and minds. And for over half a century, Bollywood has been one of India's best tools for doing just that. Long before India became an economic giant, its films were its greatest cultural ambassadors. In the Soviet Union, stars like Raj Kapoor were household names, his movies offering a vibrant, emotional escape from life behind the Iron Curtain. Across the Middle East, North Africa, and Southeast Asia, Bollywood's mix of melodrama, family values, and killer song and dance numbers created a cultural bond that jumped over language and politics. These weren't just movies, they were a kind of informal diplomacy, building a positive image of Indian society and culture. This cultural export has been incredibly valuable. It built a bridge between India and its massive diaspora, keeping cultural ties alive across generations. It opened up huge overseas markets, turning Bollywood into a global commercial force. And it gave India a unique voice in the world, separate from Hollywood's cultural monopoly. Even governments saw its value. Former Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh once called India's soft power a crucial tool in foreign policy, with Bollywood right at the center of it all. This cultural empire, however, didn't go unnoticed. As India's geopolitical ambitions have grown, so has the scrutiny of its most influential export. The very thing that made India so popular is now being viewed by some nations as a vehicle for political messaging they'd rather not import, making it a target. The resistance to Bollywood isn't happening for one single reason. It's a multi-front issue, with each country having its own motives. But if you look closely, a few clear patterns emerge. The first, and most explosive reason, is geopolitics. Many mainstream Indian films, especially action blockbusters, have storylines wrapped up in the India-Pakistan conflict, terrorism, or fiery Indian nationalism. While these plots are a hit at home, they can be toxic in some international markets. For instance, the 2024 action film Fighter, which centered on the 2019 Balakot airstrike, was banned in several key Gulf markets. Though no official reason was given, many speculated its depiction of the India-Pakistan conflict was just too sensitive for the region. This wasn't a one-off. Films like Bell Bottom, which showed the UAE's role in a 1984 hijacking, also faced bans in several Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia and Qatar, after local censors reportedly objected to its portrayal of historical events. For countries trying to maintain a delicate regional balance, or those with strong ties to Pakistan, importing films that glorify Indian military operations is a tough sell. The second front is religion and morality. In many Muslim-majority nations, films are heavily screened for any content that could be seen as disrespectful to Islam or that goes against conservative social values. Sanjay Leela Bhansali's epic Padmavat was blocked by Malaysia's censors over concerns its portrayal of a Muslim sultan could stir up religious tension and disrupt public order. Films that explore LGBTQ+ themes or female autonomy often face the same fate. The Dirty Picture was blocked in Kuwait for what was described as content that violated public morals. Even satirical films like OMG, Oh My God, which challenged religious dogma, faced controversy and hurdles in certain markets. These bans aren't just about protecting religious feelings, they're about pushing back against the cultural liberalism that Bollywood often represents. The third, and maybe the most subtle, front is ideology. In countries with authoritarian governments, like China and some in Central Asia, all media is viewed through a political lens. Entertainment isn't just entertainment. It's a potential source of social influence and, therefore, a possible risk to state control. These governments are wary of foreign films that could bring in ideas that don't align with official state values or spark public debate. A film with a strong political message, even one that has nothing to do with their own country, can be blocked simply because it encourages a culture of questioning authority. Suddenly, film censorship becomes a tool for national security. Central Asia is a fascinating and complex example of these forces at play. This region, countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan, sits at a geopolitical crossroads, squeezed between Russia, China, and the ongoing instability in Afghanistan. For decades, these nations have had a love affair with Indian cinema, going all the way back to the Soviet era. But today, that cultural warmth is being chilled by political realities. Central Asian states are, for the most part, socially conservative and politically authoritarian. Media freedom is tight, and governments keep a firm grip on what people can say and see to ensure stability. In this kind of environment, it's not just about a specific agenda against Bollywood, it's about a general policy of controlling all media that comes in. So, when a Bollywood film arrives, it's not just judged on its story. Censors are asking, does this film touch on Hindu-Muslim relations in a way that could cause trouble here? Take a film like The Kerala Story. In India, it was incredibly divisive. The state of West Bengal even tried to ban it over fears it would incite hatred, a ban that was later overturned by the Supreme Court. A film like that would be seen as dangerously provocative in a region trying to manage its own diverse populations. Does it have a nationalist message? Does it promote themes of female liberation that challenge traditional norms? There's no blanket ban on Indian movies here, but a clear pattern of selective censorship exists. Films considered too political, too religious, or too liberal might get edited, a limited release, or blocked entirely. This pushback against Bollywood isn't always obvious. A lot of the time, it's fought in the shadows with tactics that are hard to even track. First, you have formal censorship. This is the most straightforward. A government's official censor board just says no and refuses to certify a film. That's what happened to Fighter in parts of the Gulf. The reasons can be direct, like distorting historical facts, or super vague, like violating cultural norms. Then there's informal censorship, which is much sneakier. This is when there's no official ban, but quiet government pressure is put on distributors and theater owners to just drop a film. In the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, theater owners pulled The Kerala Story not because of a government order, but because of protests and an atmosphere of intimidation that made showing the film a public safety risk. It creates a de facto ban without leaving any official fingerprints. Finally, there's economic censorship. This is when a film gets soft banned because it's just seen as bad for business. A distributor might refuse to buy it, or a cinema chain might pass on showing it because they're afraid of protests, bad press, or just empty seats if the movie is tangled up in controversy. The decision is framed as a commercial one, but it's really driven by political and social pressure. This mix of outright bans and quiet pressure creates a chilling effect, where filmmakers might start censoring themselves, avoiding tricky topics just to make sure their films can get seen. The battle over what shows up on our screens is complicated, and it's always changing. If you found this breakdown interesting, subscribe for more deep dives into culture and geopolitics. And drop a comment below. Do you think governments have the right to block foreign films for political or cultural reasons? Where do you draw the line? The pushback against certain Bollywood films reveals a fundamental truth about our world. Entertainment is never just entertainment. The movies we watch are a battleground for ideas, a tool of foreign policy, and a mirror reflecting the deep tensions between global culture and national identity. Bollywood's soft power, once a celebrated asset, is now facing friction rooted in geopolitical rivalries, religious conservatism, and ideological control. But the fight is entering a new phase. The rise of streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime complicates the censorship game. Even if a film like Pathan is banned from theaters in Pakistan, illegal screenings and online piracy likely allow the film to reach some viewers, showing the limits of state control. This forces governments to think about new ways to control the digital space, moving the conflict from the movie theater to the internet. What we're really seeing is a global struggle over who gets to tell the story. The silent battle over what you get to watch is really a battle over what you're allowed to think. And as these cultural tensions rise, driven by nationalism and competing ideologies, the future of global cinema and the stories that shape our world are caught in the middle.